Hello again, and welcome to the final video in this series, Unlocking Unbreakable Energy with Dr. Matthew Ormond. I'm Michael from PC here. If you've been with us from the beginning, you've now seen the full picture. The fracture behind burnout isn't weakness. It's a disconnect between your physiology, your daily habits, and the deeper identity you're called to live. Like running a Ferrari engine on a hamster wheel fuel pump. Lots of effort, very little forward motion. We started with the 4 pillars: performance, alignment, identity, and empowerment, the core framework Dr. Ormond uses to rebuild sustainable energy. We explored the wheel of wealth. The 7 parts that show true wealth is a balance across your whole life: physical, mental, emotional, familial, social, vocational, financial, and spiritual. We talked about how stress becomes the default operating system for executives and leaders and how it quickly erodes everything that matters. And we looked at blood work, the precision data that reveals hidden leaks most labs miss. So healing can start from the real root instead of chasing symptoms. The truth is, you don't have to keep pushing through exhaustion. You don't have to accept wired and tired as normal. You don't have to shrink your ambitions or betray your family to keep succeeding. Dr. Ormond has helped thousands, executives, dentists, entrepreneurs, leaders just like you move from fracture to flow. 4 to 5 out of 10 energy to consistent 8 to 9 out of 10 energy. From short fuse and foggy days to clarity, presence, and purpose that lasts. And he offers 2 clear ways to work together, both designed for high achievers who are ready to stop surviving and start thriving. So we start with option 1, get clarity, for $799. Best for when you want to understand what's really happening in your body before committing long term. You get comprehensive functional blood work, a wheel of wealth energy assessment, and a one-on-one session with Dr. Ormond, as long as needed, a 7-day nervous system reset, and access to the infinite energy community. You walk away knowing exactly where to focus first. Clearer mornings, better sleep, less mental noise, and a personalized roadmap. Now you may choose to take option 2 to really make the change. That's $24.97. Best for when you want guided structure, accountability, and support to actually rebuild your energy over 90 days. Everything in option 1, get clarity, plus 9 weekly live group sessions with Q&A, a clear 9-week progression, sleep and recovery, nervous system regulation, integration, and sustainable rhythms. You get weekly tracking, guided audio library, and lifetime access to the recordings. Most people start around 4 to 5 out of 10 energy. By the end, consistent 8 to 9 out of 10 energy, better sleep, clearer thinking, less reliance on willpower, and routines that actually last. Now, there's no one-size-fits-all here. Start with get clarity if you want insight and direction first. Choose make the change if you're ready for guided support and transformation. If you're not sure, the best thing to do is book a free 15-minute call with Dr. Ormond. You can get right on his schedule, and he'll help you decide what's right for you right now. This is your invitation to stop settling for good enough and start living with energy you were built for. Thank you for joining this series. If anything resonated, if you feel the quiet pull towards more, take the next step. You deserve it.
In life, balance is key. All of us strive for fulfillment across 7 vital domains. Individuals flourish when these areas harmonize. The Wheel of Wealth. Enhance your life today.
Hello, I want to share something with you. My name is Dr. Matthew Ormond. I want to talk to you about what I consider holistic chiropractic. When I say holistic chiropractic to people, they wonder, what the heck does that mean? I think chiropractic as a profession really has an identity crisis. If you ask somebody, actually, if you ask 10 people what a chiropractor does, you'll have 10 different answers. I love my profession. I've not met a chiropractor I don't like. But as a profession, we seem to have allowed our profession, our services to be defined by moving the spine is really important and has created tons of relief for a lot of people. But it's also our scope of practice. And so to allow all that to be reduced into the adjustment is a disservice, in my humble opinion. And I'm open to being completely wrong in the eyes of many chiropractors. But the folly would be like describing dentistry by the drill, defining dentistry by one tool they use. And there's so much more that a holistic dentist or a good competent dentist can do. And so chiropractors, we are not just the adjustment. The precept, the foundational precept that attracted me to chiropractic is this: the power that made the body heals the body. Had the privilege of studying the physiology of the body, learning the biochemistry, learning anatomy, learning movement, learning injury patterns, all sorts of things. And at the end of the day, as I got into practice, I saw that there was so much more. I saw we could get a bone back in place, get a muscle to work, and get blood supply back to it. And where that was totally sufficient for a young athlete to get back on the field, for an adult patient that had more complex issues, it wasn't sufficient. When I started entertaining that notion 18 years ago in my private practice, I recognized that I wasn't just treating migraine headaches. I wasn't just treating back pain, wasn't just treating neck pain or GI issues, that we were actually treating a body's inability to adapt to stress. And so what causes stress? Certainly there are structural stresses, and a lot of our chiropractic friends out there in the world are really good at managing structural stress, biomechanical imbalances. But the other aspect is we are doctors of the nervous system.
And I think that price point is going to go to about $19.97. And that would be a blood work, a consultation, a report, and a few other things, some strategies, and including into the kind of the framework, what I call the Wheel of Wealth. That's the first kind of tiered package I want to bring. All the love and compassion in my heart, I have found that I'm trying to answer bigger problems. And there's a lot of good chiropractors, there's a lot of good practitioners that can help those people that aren't able to afford the $700. I am looking for a unique clientele. And to that point, so thank you, Michael, for bringing that. I'll share just a little bit of, vision of here's what it is that I'm creating. And it's a little bit, there's uncertainty in here. And you guys have both felt like, I'm not sure what he's doing, because it's still like creating it. And I've stepped out of full-time practice. I love working on patients. I have this privilege. It has been an honor. And I see constraints within the clinical model. And here's a constraint that I see within the clinical model. The objective for a patient to go to the clinic and get some help from a professional is they want to get out of pain. And that is a beautiful objective. And I became, over 18 years of practice, I became expert at helping people get out of pain. And in fact, I've been a student of pain. Pain is one of the most intriguing things I've ever learned to listen to, but pain will always lead to healing. Whether it's a rock in the shoe, whether it's emotional pain, whether it's familial pain, whether it's financial pain, it all leads to something that's causing disruption in the nervous system. And that's been a beautiful skill set that I've acquired and a gift. So the clinical model says the goal is to get out of pain. And here's what I've seen. We get somebody out of pain, and 6 months later, 8 months later, 12 months later, they come back into my clinic with the same amount of pain or worse. And what I've found is getting somebody out of pain is so important. And then from that point, once they're pain-free, because pain is exhausting, it's taxing, it costs energy, it costs us in our relationships and our vocation. Pain has a tax. And so when that person's out of pain, they have actually access to new energy, to newfound energy. And if we've not helped that person change their patterns, rewire old patterns that were disruptive, they go back to pain patterns, because that pain is there to wake them up. Pain comes in my life to wake me up. And so if we don't change those patterns, they go back to the pain pattern. That is a constraint of the clinical model. And so what I feel compelled and inspired to do, and Alan, I feel a thought, so I'll pause in a second, but what I feel compelled to do is I want to help people not only get out of pain, but once they're out of pain is to point that energy in a different pattern. And when we connect them to there's a whole program I've worked with that we help extract core values. When someone knows their values and they know the sequence of their values, they have access to energy. We can do things tirelessly, but it fires a different part of the brain. So no longer do they have to, all the sensory input doesn't have to go through the hindbrain where fight or flight is present, where evolution is present, where not safe and all the things are present, that we can bypass that. And new base camp is at the telencephalon, this value center, then help them connect that newfound energy, not only through their values, but to their mission and vision. And the impact of that, now there's a momentum in this newfound energy directed in a way that's ascension in nature. It impacts positively, of course, their health, but mental and emotional health, familial health. So relationships are better, more enriching, social health. They contribute more to their community. Their vocation is locked in with purpose, financial will benefit, and then the spiritual health. And that's not just connection to God. It is part of that, but also their personal identities. There are spiritual identities that we own, and then there are less than spiritual identities that we kind of move into and accept. And so this is the transformation I want to make. So I call it the non-clinical clinical model for people. And the market doesn't yet even know, and I don't pretend that this is a brand new unique product by itself, but also the marketplace doesn't know they even want this or need this thing. And yet I see this as being when I can pick, and I had the privilege of working on some real elite clientele that appreciate what I do, but this is what I'm searching to do with more people, is help them accelerate through their life, not just get out of pain. So I'm glad to hear that, and I agree. I think I tell people all the time, and I mean this sincerely, next to being, these are my privileges, next to being a husband and a father, working people, helping them get through pain and improve their lives, relieve suffering is my greatest privilege. And it truly is. And it's a unique gift. I've treated over 85,000 patients, and to be in the trenches, front row seat with them, and help them move through pain and ultimately find purpose and meaning to their pain. And when we can find meaning to our pain, now it connects the dots into how did it serve me? And it changes the entire nervous system.
Hello, I want to share something with you. My name is Dr. Matthew Ormond. I want to talk to you about what I consider holistic chiropractic. When I say holistic chiropractic to people, they wonder, what the heck does that mean? I think chiropractic as a profession really has an identity crisis. If you ask somebody, actually, if you ask 10 people what a chiropractor does, you'll have 10 different answers. I love my profession. I've not met a chiropractor I don't like. But as a profession, we seem to have allowed our profession, our services to be defined by moving the spine is really important and has created tons of relief for a lot of people. But it's also our scope of practice. And so to allow all that to be reduced into the adjustment is a disservice, in my humble opinion. And I'm open to being completely wrong in the eyes of many chiropractors. But the folly would be like describing dentistry by the drill, defining dentistry by one tool they use. And there's so much more that a holistic dentist or a good competent dentist can do. And so chiropractors, we are not just the adjustment. The precept, the foundational precept that attracted me to chiropractic is this: the power that made the body heals the body. Had the privilege of studying the physiology of the body, learning the biochemistry, learning anatomy, learning movement, learning injury patterns, all sorts of things. And at the end of the day, as I got into practice, I saw that there was so much more. I saw we could get a bone back in place, get a muscle to work, and get blood supply back to it. And where that was totally sufficient for a young athlete to get back on the field, for an adult patient that had more complex issues, it wasn't sufficient. When I started entertaining that notion 18 years ago in my private practice, I recognized that I wasn't just treating migraine headaches, I wasn't just treating back pain, wasn't just treating neck pain or GI issues, that we were actually treating a body's inability to adapt to stress. And so what causes stress? Certainly there are structural stresses, and a lot of our chiropractic friends out there in the world are really good at managing structural stress, biomechanical imbalances. But the other...
Exactly. Thank you. So I do offer a 90-day program. And in this 90-day program, it's called a reset. We use the word transformation too, but really it's a reset. And, instead of having energy leakage, bringing that energy back into the body and what's possible, we have these frameworks and we can be intentional in putting energy in the right places, what is possible is a full-on transformation. So in 90 days, it's a money back guarantee. I am confident, and it requires willingness, and it requires work on the individual. In fact, it is all the work on the individual. I simply am the facilitator, but that's the program. Up until the end of this year, price point right now is $19.94. As of in January, the price will go up. It's the value of this, and I'm not like tooting my own horn at all, but the value of this is $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 easy for an entrepreneur who sees the value of it. Working with a guy like Sean Callaghy, the value was much, much more than that, and just sees a man of means as well. But I recognize the price point has to be, start where we're at. So I offer that not for scarcity only, but I offer that with integrous scarcity. That this is a time that you can get that price point.